Mabuhay. Kamusika, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. And almost didn't quite make it here on time. I think I just had the worst nosebleed I've ever had in my life. I was 5 minutes into a shower with my eyes closed. The drain was plugged up, and I looked down, and it was all red. And I looked up, and there was blood splattered there, and looked like a crime scene. But I think I got it under control. So hopefully I'll refrain from sneezing. Today's topic here on Love Beyond the Sea is kind of related, but we're going to stray a little bit here and talk about the Philippines. Is it dead for sexpats? Last video I did was about the brown pill, which is about finding a woman overseas, a wife overseas, and these things I'll bring up here going on in the Philippines now. Does that affect men who are still looking for love beyond the sea? Well, we'll talk about that. Most of this is going to be about the Philippines scene, sexpats and sex tourism. I've had people talk to me about or tell me about how there are people in the Philippines who are complaining that it's harder to to get sex these days in the Philippines. Some men, honestly, some men have just said to other people, forget it, it's over, it's done here. We have to think of somewhere else to go. If you have come across those comments, or you know people that feel that way, this will be the place to share those comments. I'm going to list some things here, hopefully that will generate some discussion. I only have about 15 minutes or so myself, but I'm sure that there should be enough here for other people to chime in, so we can get a better idea of what's going on out there. B Rad, James Kelly, PV, hi there. A new person, I'm not familiar with that name before. Glad you can be here. Jared Hale, new subscriber, I know, I appreciate that. So I'm just going to jump right in here. In fact, before I was going to start, I got some hot information to add to what already this source of mine, an anonymous source, has given me. I'm not up on this myself, but I've had people that want to tell me about it. So, it was just time to do a video on this. So, is the Philippines dying for sexpats and marriage-minded men? Something I read about now and then, and I hear, is the Philippines isn't quite the place it used to be for sexpats and sex tourists, and how bummed out that makes them feel. Is this true? Is this what you hear? What would be the reasons for that? If you know or have an idea, be ready to share your observations in the comments section. We are going to talk about ramifications for both types today, but most of it will be on the the sexpats and the sex tourists. Please subscribe to Love Beyond the Sea. This is a pro-marriage, Filipina-friendly channel to help foreigners have a successful relationship with a Filipina. Again, comments are encouraged. Don't forget to get notifications. Today's topic is the Philippines dating and marriage scene. Is it moving towards extinction? Johnny Karate, welcome. I think depends on things like age, standard, expectations as far as finding a woman for marriage. Yeah, I mean, all of those are true, especially one's expectations. And a person should have some knowledge about what they're getting into, so they don't get scammed. There have been plenty of stories to this day of foreigners, getting overcome with emotion and giving money away and not seeing it back, or even worse. The age, yeah, I'm married Filipina, by the way, to some of you that aren't familiar with my channel. I was single until 53. I thought I'd never get married. At least I didn't see how. And then I finally decided to do what I call taking the brown pill. I've got a video on that if you want to know the explanation for that. And look for a woman overseas. And it took 8 weeks for me to marry my wife. And we're coming up about a month short of 4 years of marriage. I'm not recommending that to everybody so quickly, but it did work. I must have had some realistic expectations for that, and she wasn't an 18-year-old, and yeah, finding a woman in the Philippines. I still, this channel is about helping men find a woman in the Philippines. So if the time comes when that becomes impossible, I will certainly mention that here. I'm going to start off talking about the sexpats. I want you to know you will hear some discouraging things today for foreigners. However, I don't believe these dynamics will have much of an effect on foreigners who are looking for wives. I have said in previous videos, I think men who can show a Filipina that they are looking to make a commitment to them in the form of marriage will still be able to find women with high marriage market value. From what I can tell, the men most alarmed about these changes that we'll talk about are the ones more concerned about sexual market value. Some men say it is harder to get casual sex in the Philippines these days, and of course are discouraged by this. You may not be familiar with the Merle Haggard song from the early 80s called Are the Good Times Really Over for Good? But this song title describes what many are discussing on Philippines internet blogs and websites these days. The Philippines, among other countries, has had a reputation as a place for easy sex with women you would not be able to score with in your own country. Supposedly, it used to be enough simply to have the women see that you are from another country to get them fawning over a foreigner as if he was the proverbial rock star. He could get any 7, 8, or 9 to shack up with him and increase his lay count. He would turn heads by standing out as someone who probably had money he didn't know what to do with. He just couldn't lose. Back then, he could take a short vacation to Fantasy Island, then return to the real world feeling like a new man, at least until that wore off. Johnny Karate, if you don't have any game back home, then you won't have it in the Philippines. That's very underrated and factual statement, I believe, Johnny. Just being white and from the West isn't enough anymore. So you clear this out here. So you agree that something has changed, and I don't want this. Here we go. All right. Something has changed. You know what? If somebody is unsuccessful in the West, I don't know why they would have any more success among the Philippines. I mean, if the Filipina is, looking for a committed, mature man, then, she should be able to discern that sooner or later. And if he's a player, then I think they've seen enough players to recognize that, and she will not be interested in him. Yeah, game. What all is involved with that? We don't have time to get into that today. I wonder, did I have any game? I had no success here in the United States for decades, but I had enough game, I guess, to find a woman in the Philippines, and we're still married for 4 years. So I did something right. If you're not familiar with Love Beyond the Sea, plenty of videos you can check out and see what I might have done right. So as far as the Philippines changing, I think it's best to accept that it isn't that way anymore. Guy can just get off the plane and, he's like the Beatles have landed or something. A change like this may end up being permanent. This may cause men to think twice about getting action or even trying for a wife in the Philippines. I've been to the Philippines 3 times, and I've never had the perception that I was anything special there, that people were looking at me, and that I could walk up to any Filipina and get her number. So why do some people say it's different now? So again, I haven't paid much attention to this, but I have been very fortunate recently to gain a strong source of the Philippines scene. that can keep me abreast of changes that might be happening. And I'm sure some of you have read things about this too. So, you know, if I don't mention something here from my source, feel free to add that here in the comments. This highly sophisticated and intelligent person offered some help with possible reasons for a decline in the success rate for sexpats and sex tourists, and seems to have his pulse on this. And I will share what his views, what his findings are here. I've never met this person, but they love me on the sea, and they make a lot of salient points. So I wanted to include them in this live stream tonight. He guards his identity very well. If I were to find out who he is, he would be lost as a source of good information in the future, but I will take all the help that he can provide. And I should mention, this secret source is also a marriage-minded person. He is not a sexpat. And this unknown source of information provided me links to references and documentation to corroborate what he informed me of. But to protect his privacy, I'm not able to put them in the description box. This information can be verified on Google forums and YouTube channels. He also has his own sources. Tom and Ruth, Philippine Adventures. Hi, Tom. We're getting started here a little early in case you have a live stream of your own. I know you're extremely popular. If you're not familiar with Tom and Philippines Adventures, I would recommend checking out his live stream. Just not right now. I don't think he's having one, but really good information. Maybe the best source of information these days for foreigners wanting to get information about the Philippines as a retirement destination. Tom and Ruth Philippine Adventures, 2 or 3 lengthy live streams a week and other uploads. Very, very good channel. Highly recommended. Just woke up getting coffee. Well, that's right. It's only 7:12 in the Philippines. Now it's so bright out here. It's like it's 7:12 in the morning here, but you know, the seasons are changing. Just like times are changing in the Philippines. So here's what my secret source divulged to me. One of the factors he mentioned in this decline of success rate for sexpats would be social media and smartphones. Social media and smartphones. I'm quoting here. Social media, online thirst and saturation of sites like Filipino Cupid and Tinder have significantly contributed to Filipinas becoming more jaded by foreigners. Would you like being sold false promises, being pumped and dumped? Probably not. So Filipinas are becoming more savvy and suspicious towards foreigners as a whole. But due to, quote, white old foreigners being there the longest, there is a stereotype happening where young Filipino women who are with old white men, aka 50-plus crowd, are viewed as prostitutes or low class among the wider Filipino community. It takes considerable effort to break down this barrier and to show you are different. They said face reputation is very important in Philippine society. So, you know, it may be that in some places there is beginning to be a stigma attached. Now, 50-plus crowd could be 50, 60, 70, and you know, a young Filipino woman here could be 18, 20, 25, or if she's 30 and he's 70, then you know you got this kind of same dynamic going on, and he is suggesting here that a stereotype is happening where young Filipino women who are with the older men are viewed as prostitutes or lower class among the wider Filipino community. So just chew on that one for a while. Now, this is me speaking now. I have also speculated that some foreign men have given all men a bad reputation in the eyes of Filipinas. I've had Filipinas message me when I was on the dating site after I got married and tell me similar tales of guys not showing up, ghosting them after they thought they had something going online. And, you know, this pump and dump routine is used casually by some men. And so maybe the Filipinas are wising up. I mean, this has been going on for a very, very long time. So, you know, maybe word has gotten around. Maybe maybe things are changing in that way. But that's just only one way. Johnny Karate, I was recently in the Philippines, saw a lot of young foreigners in their 30s, maybe even 20s, with young Filipinas. So the older gentlemen are getting pushed out. They are left with the oldies. Well, interesting. You should talk about the young men. I believe that's on my sources list. Um, I'm all for it. I'm all for young men going and considering the Philippines. I think I just released a video about should a young man consider a Filipina first, rather than waiting until he's 30 or 40 and realizing things are really bad in the West. A guy at work, 37 years old, his Filipino wife should be here very, very soon. He might be 38 now, but he found a wife. He's a younger guy, and I know guys younger than him right now that are planning on going and seeing a particular Filipina. So that, I don't know how new that is. My guess is it's probably somewhat new, and perhaps the social media and smartphone increase, or influence has helped these guys do that. I know there's some YouTube videos. I don't know if there's a lot. I certainly don't watch all the channels where there are some younger men with Filipinas. Some of them are married, some of them aren't. The Ahern family, he seems like a younger guy. They've got 4 kids, 4 children. He's a younger guy, and there's others. So that may be a growing trend here. So I appreciate that comment. Another reason he gave me here for this decline, and why some people even consider it dead for the sexpats, is a Korean, Chinese, Japanese invasion. Korean, Chinese, Japanese invasion. And I'm quoting now from him. One thing, I assume it's a male, one thing that is only mentioned briefly in Western circles is the rise of East Asia, specifically Japan, China, and Korea. Due to the increase of disposable income and the gender imbalances in those countries, many of these men are going to Southeast Asia, predominantly Vietnam and Myanmar, formerly Burma, to find wives to bring back to their home countries, just like Westerners, which increases competition. I have seen a few Filipina profiles who talk about K-dramas and only wanting Korean men. And they say here, while I have only seen a few minority, it is becoming more common. And now this is me talking. They also added something else that isn't talked about as much as it should be in Western circles. My source knows someone in Korea and says that Korean men are leaving their country in droves to find wives due to the rise of something called Korean feminism. My source also said that the vast majority of bars in Angeles, specifically Walking Street, are increasingly being owned by Koreans. And mentioned the sites Megalia, Megalia, and WOMAD, WOMAD, can share information about Korean feminism. Now, as was brought up earlier, increased competition for young men. Increased competition from young men. They say, as more and more young men get fed up with the low return on investment and attitudes of Western women, they're looking at other options. While it has been a slow boil, more and more younger men are increasingly going to the Philippines. They mentioned here specifically Makati, FBGC, to find love. FBGC is Fort Bonifacio Global City. And they say you can see this if you look at the testimonial sections of Filipino Cupid and Christian Filipina, for example. They state the women are getting younger. And this increased competition has put strain on older mongers who are now complaining that the party is over and that their favorite hunting ground is ruined. Mongers, by the way, is a term sex tourists prefer to refer to themselves as, I am told. So increased competition from young men. Also, they mentioned the rise of the middle class, the rise of the middle class. They say Filipinos are increasingly becoming more educated and wealthy due to the influx of call center and outsourcing jobs. Because of this, they no longer have to rely so much on Westerners to pay the bills as they have jobs. Now, Filipinos are becoming more picky in regards to who they love, and the geriatric monger crowd is being pushed out. I think they mean the sex monger crowd, in favor of genuine men. This would also explain why Angeles City bar girls are now considered fat and ugly, like by some of these men. And another reason they mention here is fishing in the same pond, they call it. Hypothetical reason of their own. This is what my source told me, and that while this is hypothetical, so I don't know if it's true or not, and it's a minor point, they said they thought they should mention it. Due to the oversaturation of foreigners in Makati and Angeles, it has created a bubble where it becomes incredibly difficult to get a date with someone from that area due to the bad attitudes imparted by foreigners on Filipinos and increased selection of foreigners in that area. I mean, like he said earlier, a slow boil, and changes don't always happen fast. We've had some major changes here in this country, but it started 30, 40 years ago. Even feminism didn't happen overnight. So I'm commenting here now. This is what my source told me. He protects his identity to a fault, and I figure he has some reason for that. And who knows? He might even be dropping in on live streams, maybe even this one. I probably wouldn't know, though, because I think he's going to use different identities. If you agree or disagree with what I've said so far, leave a comment. I think he said some very interesting things. In fact, just tonight, he sent me some other information here. Reasons why things in the views of some are changing in the Philippines. Harder to, to get casual sex in the Philippines these days. And one of them would be Koreans taking over the Philippines from Angeles to Bohol's Alona Beach. An increase in, I would say, quote, bar fines the past few years by Asian sex tourists. In other words, they have more disposable income and they are overpaying without negotiating. And so, that leaves some of the foreigners, lacking and getting beat out by these more wealthier, Asian sex tourists. Then there is, they listed here, more competition from other Westerners. Someone put it best in a video on YouTube. They said about are Koreans taking over Angeles City. That must have been the title. Are Koreans taking over Angeles City? And this commentator they saw said Westerners have worn out their welcome in the Philippines. So it is no surprise they are getting ignored. And of course, this isn't, 100% for everybody, but there are people more and more that are coming up with these type of comments. I've heard it, didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it, and I've had other people, point these things out. So I thought it would make a good topic for a YouTube video tonight. Then they also say, if we listen to mongers who go to Club Atlantis and other monger haunts, all you hear about is how the Koreans are driving up prices. As I mentioned, getting the best girls, and Westerners are being neglected. And they have heard stories about Koreans refusing entry to both Westerners and even Filipinos due to their insular nature. And that is not just bars, but shops as well. And that this cannot be disputed. Even SM Malls in the Philippines is owned by a Chinese family, late Henry Sy, I think it is, S-Y, with ties to and it didn't print out here, so I It was in color and it didn't print out, so I can't tell you what the ties were to. Insular meaning ignorant of or uninterested in people outside of their own experience. Peoples outside of their own experience. So the Koreans sound like they're having a greater influence in the Philippines these days. And again, they're stating all of this that he has said, that I have told you, is easily verifiable on the internet. And sexpats need to get their ducks in order and possibly migrate to another hunting ground, as the party is now over. This is a growing sentiment. Um, I have no reason to disbelieve that. Phil's to Phoenix. Hi, Phil's. You're back in Phil's to Phoenix. John, back in Phoenix, good old USA. Um, you may have to go back and watch this later, Phil's to Phoenix. We're just talking about something a little unusual tonight for me, and that's is the Philippines dead for sexpats and marriage-minded men? And so far, we've been talking about from the sexpat side. And guys, if you've heard anything, or you vehemently disagree with anything and think, well, this just couldn't be, please chime in here before we're all done. I'm not in any particular hurry, and I started a little early tonight. But if there's something you want to talk about that's related to this, I certainly have time to talk to you about that. Now, I am going to talk about the marriage-minded crowd, since that was part of the title. Yeah, you agree? B. Rad, James Kelly, PV. Is that Peter Vandiver or something? Someone else? I don't know. I agree with all what your source said. Well, they've got their own sources. They've got their finger on the pulse of this. And if you guys feel like he's right, then you're probably learning from similar sources. And does this affect the honest, straightforward guy just looking for a good wife in the Philippines, like I was 4 years ago? Things have changed in 4 years. Would that affect someone like me now? As for these marriage-minded men who have heard from sources like this channel that Filipinas make great wives, I doubt they're complaining about their options. Men continue to flock to the Philippines to find good wives, and like me, met on a dating site. I know men that are pursuing a Filipina for marriage, men at work who married Filipinas recently, another one who is having trouble deciding which Filipina to get serious with, and I bet there are many others around the world considering a woman from the Philippines. I think that's still a good thing. This has been the case for a long time, and I doubt this trend changes or becomes more difficult to achieve anytime soon. J Bud 5000, welcome. The Filipinas who seek out older foreign and American men are single mothers with children, girls who are determined to get to the United States. The Filipina who is under 25 with no children is called a dalaga, Dalaga, a dalaga. Filipinas who seek out older foreign men and American men are single mothers with kids and girls who are determined to get to the United States. Filipina who is under 25 with no children is called a dalaga, and probably one of the more targeted groups of Filipinas by the foreigners is a woman who is, that age or less, and without children. And sometimes a woman, a Filipina 25, may have several children already. Yes, I just looked up J Bud 5000, and that's what I mentioned. The dalaga is the most sought after girl by everyone. And my wife was 26 at the time. I was 53. And, since I had not been a father and just wanted to have a relationship, that was, and without knowing the term, that's what I was looking for as well. And my wife was actually looking for somebody uh, without children too. And so I guess she thought I was, I don't know, maybe a unicorn or something. Um, but that's not why we got married. It's a long story that's being told in Love Beyond the Sea videos. Now, Jay Bud, I know you're a wealth of information, so by all means, make any comment you want here. I know you don't feel that the Philippines is dead. Um, there are some people that do. They've had enough bad experience that they've just thrown in the towel and given up and encouraged other people to find another place. Um, but for marriage-minded men, yes, some good women could say, "Oh, these foreigners are all the same. I just forget about it. I don't want to get played. I don't want to get my feelings hurt." Um, and because some foreign men have given them a bad reputation. But on the other hand, there's probably Filipinas married to good men who are taking care of them, who are being faithful to them, who are not abusing them, and so the Filipinas also hearing that there are men out there who still are serious marriage-minded men and are looking for more than just a pretty face or a nice body. There is a difference between someone looking for casual sex and a man looking for a wife. That difference is commitment. A man looking to commit to a Filipina is more desirable than one who isn't. He can get married sooner, I think, rather than later. And again, took my wife and I less than 8 weeks. We were 9,800 miles apart. We're happy nearly 4 years later. The foreigner, no, that doesn't mean it's easy. In Love Beyond the Sea, I'm going to try my best to explain how I handle things. No, there are no perfect women. There's no perfect marriages, and you find that out pretty quick. But there are things you can do to smooth over the rough edges and get through the tough times and build your relationship. And that's really what, I envision Love Beyond the Sea being about. The Philippines is getting congested, Manila, Cebu, Davao, with foreigners. Well, that means there's more choice. I'm sure that 20 years ago, this wasn't quite the case. Nowadays, you've got a lot of people, thinking about living there because it's cheaper, for sure, and they've heard so many good things about potential for a good wife there. I'm sure there is a lot of. If somebody hadn't been back for 20, 25 years, they would probably say that, wow, things have really changed here. So there's more competition, perhaps, for men who are honestly seeking a wife, and then the ones who are just players. Yeah, more choice equals more competition, and I have that written right here about choice, and which means, well, maybe this is a little different, but the white god syndrome is lacking. May have been there at one point, but it is not the same these days. The foreigner looking to marry a Filipina is looking for character, or at least he should be. The foreigner who is willing to open his wallet to a Filipina by marrying her and taking care of her will always be in more demand than someone looking for one-night stands. That's just my opinion. The marriage-minded Filipina is going to go for the marriage-minded foreigner. Unless feminism ruins the Philippines someday, I think the Philippines is still an excellent place to look for a wife. If indeed sexpats and sex tourists have come into hard times in the Philippines, as some say, you can let me know in the comment section, because I'm really growing more and more curious about this for some reason. I am much more certain that the Philippines is still a good place for the foreigner who has come to the conclusion that finding a suitable spouse has changed in the West, but are willing to go to the Pearl of the Orient, the Philippines, to find a gem of a wife. The sexpats and sex tourists, I don't know what their plan would be other than try somewhere else to relive their youth with sevens, eight, and nines. But I will say this, if you are a man who is just a 5 or a 6, but you have a heart of gold, you can find a wife in the Philippines and let others complain about how they can't get no satisfaction. Despite whatever is going on in the Philippines, I don't think that will prevent you from finding love beyond the sea. So we've talked about some things. If you guys feel like you want to share some other things, if you disagree, if you agree, maybe you've learned something tonight. Maybe you already knew this, and or maybe it's not important to you, but it is something that is brewing. It's out there, and I want to make sure that people who are marriage-minded don't feel like it's getting to be as difficult for them. At least I don't think it is. So that's my portion of it. Now I've got all night, not all night, but if you guys want to make comments, I'm here to listen, to take them, and they can be about anything, while you've got me on here. Phil's Phoenix, I just spent a month in the Angeles area exploring the old Clark Air Force Base. The adult entertainment industry is still very active in that area. And I think, my source had mentioned that is something that's become increasingly taken over by Koreans. That might have been somewhere in there, more of a Korean influence. Would I like to meet my source in real life? Well, yeah, I suppose. I don't know if that's possible. I'm tickled that somebody would say, basically, hey, I like your channel, and then, show me that they know some things. The things that I have talked about with my source is just a small amount. I really haven't known him for very long, but I almost didn't get this information, but, I had to, twist his arm a little bit and got him to soften up. And so he wanted to contribute to this topic. And it is different, but it does kind of, it's a Philippine thing. In 5 years, we may be living in the Philippines, and then I would really have a good picture of what's going on. But my main point here is just to get out that something has changed, like people are saying. It must be true, but I don't think that's going to have a profound effect on the guys that are just looking for a good wife like I was. MK TV show. Hello, good morning. Magandang umaga. Good evening. Magandang gabi. And good afternoon to other parts of the world. Magandang tanghali. How did I do, MK show? Those are some of the first few phrases my wife and her brother tried to teach me when I met her for the first time in the Philippines. So, and I don't know if this mystery source, I call him Mr. E, because I don't know their name, probably never going to. I don't know if they're 80 years old and know about everything there is, or if they're just a bright younger person. I don't know, but they wanted to help. Maybe they're a popular YouTuber, and when I've talked to this source, he's used a computer voice, so I don't know what he really sounds like, so I can't really tell how old he is. Phil's Phoenix, very true. The Koreans are very common all over the Philippines. Many go there to help gain fluency in American English. Glad you're doing well, MK Show TV. How's my is it Visaya? Magandang umaga, Magandang tanghali, Magandang umaga. B Rad, James Kelly PV. It sounds like by how you describe him, between this stream and the promo, he will find you. He must be really intelligent. Well, you know, I what about me? Don't give him all the credit. But yeah, if he's intelligent and he wants to help this channel, um, more power to him. It's possible, depending on his time, he can give me some information on some other things that I don't normally know about or talk about. For example, he's helped with the red, black, and blue pills. If you're not familiar with that, I've come up with what I call the brown pill, which is finding a wife overseas, and he helped me with a comparison to the red, blue, and black pills, and that's in the video. I'm going to do a Cliff Notes video too. Brown pill, brown color of the earth, the ground, and finding a wife overseas is looking for a wife in another part of the earth. It's breaking new ground. It's a neutral color, doesn't have the extremes of the red pills and even the blue pills to some degree, and the black pills, and it also stands for the brown being like the fall or the winter. It's a color has to do with the fall and winter of a man's life when he tends to be a little older and decides maybe I need to do something different, break some new ground, go to another part of the earth. So I think it's fair to call that concept the brown pill. But my source knows about probably 10 different pills. We're communicating about that recently. So hopefully in the future he can help the channel and give some information here that will be interesting to some people that I wouldn't normally know myself. MK Show TV. I'm from Iloilo. See, I can even now pronounce that. My Philippines interest is live. Frank's channel. Obviously, I watch Frank's channel. I just got notification. Let's see. Iloilo. Good morning is Maayong Aga. Elo Ingo. See, I can't pronounce that, and I'll never be good at it. But thank you for sharing that. B Rad, since you brought that up, can you go over how you came up with the idea of the brown pill? Well, I mean, I became familiar with the red pill, blue pill, black pill. It's kind of interesting. They're different philosophies of, I guess, how you see life, and it can be applied to about anything, but specifically how it applies to the dating world or the male-female relationship. That I've seen some MGTOW videos, and they talk about these pills, and so the red pill seemed kind of negative to me. Seemed like people were kind of calling off the dogs too soon. Maybe assuming things about women that weren't necessarily true. Not all women were like they were saying. But the red pill view is that that's just harsh reality, like it or not. And for me, I know what it was like to be single a long time and wonder, what's the use? Why even go on? Why do I want to be married so bad if I can't find anybody? So I'm sure I had some, red pill going through me. Very critical of, I guess the type of women that were out there. So, and then the black pill is like the next extension. It's like my source said, overdosing on the red pill. Black pill is just fatalism. What's the word for it? Catastrophizing. It just gets worse and worse. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. I could have done that. I mean, I had the black pill almost all the way down, just going to give up. And then one day my pastor said, well, I got this idea for you when you're done licking your wounds and and can feel like trying something else. Don't have to do it. I'm just going to share it with you. And it was about, overseas, finding a woman overseas. And so he sent me an article of somebody that did that. And I thought to myself, I've seen this before. I read it again and thought, why not? I'm not going to give up. So I kind of had the white pill attitude, which is maybe the antidote to the black pill attitude. The white pill is very optimistic, positive, can do, maybe will do. I'm not going to give up. I can still do this. And that gave me hope, although I didn't know what was going to happen. So I just decided, before people go off the deep end, especially with the black pill, why not the brown pill? There are many, many, many people to this day going to other countries. Doesn't have to be the Philippines. Brown pill is for overseas, new ground, different part of the earth. And, it just kind of reels you back in a little bit more focused and steady and neutral. And that's just what I call the brown pill. So that's just what it means. If it's not working where you are and you keep doing the same thing that's not working, you're probably going to get the same results. And you're getting older. You're in the fall or winter of your life even. I just couldn't deal with it. I had to be married. Now that I've been married to my Filipina for 4 years, I can't imagine being without that woman. I don't want to be without that woman. We plan on retiring in the Philippines in about 5 years, early retirement, 62. And, then I can be with her all the time. Right now, we're both working. She's working a lot of hours. I'm working 6 days a week. One day we're going to go relax and live our lives in the Philippines. That's the brown pill. I'm going to do a Cliff's Notes version to anybody that didn't see the 17-minute more extended version. I'll probably do that this week. So if a guy can afford to go find a wife, then go for it. That's right. The brown pill is expensive. It's kind of like Viagra today, getting more and more expensive. It's like $21 a pill in the Philippines. It's a different kind of pill, though. But the brown pill, yeah, it costs a certain amount of money. I don't know if I said this in the video, maybe $8,000 to $10,000. I don't know how that sounds to everybody, but that's, I think, pretty good ballpark figure. Go to the Philippines. You want to at least meet her once. You got to stay there. You got to do things there. You got to meet the family, of course. You've got your immigration costs if you're going to do that. That's my wife. She's asking me if she can go to another Filipinas place. We got an invitation to my favorite restaurant with a Filipino couple that was considering living here in Nebraska. They decided it was too cold. It's been a bad winter. So I told her, no, hon, I've got to do this live stream. So they're going to get together, which is great. With a woman that my wife met when she got here, a little bit older, well-grounded Filipina. It's really good for my wife. So yeah, but that doesn't all have to be paid out at once. It could be paid out in different stages, because the immigration process is a lot of hurry up and wait. Pay this now and then wait, fill out the paperwork and then wait. But Jay Bud, you mentioned if a guy is broke, then don't play games. I take that to mean don't try to lead on a Filipina that you're the assumed prototypical foreigner that has money falling out of their pockets, $20 bills in their sofa cushions, and that happens. I'm glad you brought that up. You're well aware, Jay Bud, you've shared some excellent comments here on my live feeds. You're one of the best. I have to admit, you really dig into things, and I respect what you say. You're much like my source, but they're not the same person. And I'm not making it up. I'm not the source either. I really do have a source, a secret source. Uh, yeah, if he's broke, then just tell her, or don't get involved, because then you could be in worse shape after that. But he says blue pill, red pill, monk mode. You know your MGTOW. Well, and there's different, yeah, different classifications of that even, in the MGTOW realm. MK Show TV, nice to meet you all. Thank you for stopping by. Left thumbs up, thank you. A thumbs up is appreciated. I never mentioned that, but don't hesitate, to give a thumbs up if you like the video. And as for me, a Filipina, I would choose marriage-minded because in our culture, conservative even nowadays are still there. Thank you, and thank you, MK. And so, yeah, there are conservative women, and they're looking for a conservative man. And if you can show her that and click, then you could get married a lot faster than you can here in America, where I am. Thank you for stopping by MK Show TV. She has a YouTube channel as well. B Rad James Kelly PV. That's a long name. Don't know how to interpret that. What advice would you give young guys who are looking to get married to a Filipina, and where would you recommend them to look, e.g. Davao? Any place that would be easy to get to, I suppose, like a city like that. Um, province province girls, look, there are people very happy with marrying a province woman. Um, I don't know. What advice would I give them? It's really the same advice. Well, first of all, you can find a good wife in the Philippines. Even a younger man does have advantages, some advantage over an older man like myself. And I talk about that in the video, Can a Young Man Find Love in the Philippines? So these advantages, I would not be bashful to talk to the woman about. He has to treat her right. And, if he's conservative, if he's honest, he's open, he's transparent, um, if he can converse with her, just say if he can show her that he's looking to get married, that he's different than the guys that are out there that are just out for a 2 or 3 week fling. And, he's serious about getting married. And I don't care if he's 25, 30 years old. Some Filipinas, that's too young for them. But I remember back when I was looking for a wife, there were quite a few that were in the age group that I was looking for, but I was not in the age group that they were looking for, because, they were looking for a younger guy. So it's out there. Christian Filipina is where I found my wife, but Christian Filipina is a dating website, and none of the information that they have on their website is anything that my source would have. So my source is a real person. Don't know if I'll meet them. Don't know if I'll ever hear from them again. But they felt like they recommended this topic, and then they kind of front loaded it with some really interesting comments that apparently nobody has any great disagreement with. Or you can mention that here. But no, this person, I don't believe they're affiliated with Christian Filipina. But they are a real secretive person, probably more private than my wife, or guards their privacy. Yeah, Jay Bud, Christian Filipina. I mean, that's where I found my wife, and quite frankly, there's a lot of men that found their wife there that I find out from looking at other channels, or even my own. They'll say, yeah, that's where I found my wife, or I just signed up. One guy told me he saw a video or an article of mine on was it Foreign Wife Happy Life, foreignwifehappylife.com, and inspired him to go look for a Filipina, joined Christian Filipina. Now he's going to go visit there. I believe he joined Christian Filipina. I know another guy did. Yeah, Facebook. Thank you, JBud 5000. A lot of casualties on Facebook. One of the reasons is it's easy to falsify your information. I mean, who's going to verify it? At least on Christian Filipina, I know at least they have more at their disposal to verify things and check things than Facebook. Anything can happen. They can have 10 different Facebook accounts. Some people have met on Facebook. I've probably heard more bad than good on that. But for some people, that's all they know, is Facebook. But there's lots of dating sites. I mean, you can find good ones even on the ones that aren't Christian Filipina. Just like anything, don't give money until you're going to marry that woman. Don't fall for flattery, especially if it's unearned, not deserved. Flattery, terms of endearment, that are out of place. Anything doesn't sound right. I think if they're showing too much skin, move on. If they're caught in a lie, move on. If they're distracted, move on. There's lots of things that you can look for. JBud, Filipina Cupid is heavy with scammers and ladyboys, and some ladyboys almost impossible to tell. Yeah, I mean, there's scammers everywhere because they're really getting sophisticated and they share notes. And these dating sites don't have the manpower to, or maybe even all the technology to track them all down as they enter the doors. But I know you can always ask on Christian Filipina because I'm familiar with that, and bring up a person's number or name, profile number or name, and ask somebody to check them out. Does it sound right? It seems kind of weird, and they can even call them and kind of ask how they're doing and try to see if they tell them the same thing they're telling you. So I endorse it. That's where I found my wife. So make sure I didn't miss anything there. Davao is a safe, progressive city. It's about, I think it's 2 million daytime population. Big place. I think it's the biggest land area city in the Philippines. It's where my wife's from. Easy to get to. There's an airport there, but you got to go to Manila first, then the airport, and then we're about an hour, 45 minutes, with traffic from the city. So but you just have to see if she's a good one. You go to her wherever she is. But that's something you just have to get to know her, and if she's got what you're looking for, I'd make the move. Be read. Has your source at any other interesting things? Can you share any other tidbits with the audience? The ones that are fresh in my mind is this sort of thing about the sexpats feeling like the well is dry or it's drying up, and how frustrated they are. And well, I believe it. I mean, there are reasons that my source gave that other people apparently agree with, and competition being one of them. I'm sure that my source has. I just right now I cannot think about that. But if they want to, come up with another topic and share their information, that's fine. I'm all for it. Most of the time we're going to focus on relationships and probably do's and don'ts and what's worked for me and what I've learned, and Filipina qualities. I just did a live stream, 2 of them on Filipina qualities. She's always a Filipina to me, so I want people to learn about Filipinas and what they're like, the best way to win her heart, and what a good one is looking for. So that's the gist of it. But if we can branch out into something a little different that people would be interested in, I'm all for it. Never, ever, ever, ever. You're right, Jay Bud. Send money to someone you don't know. And I can see a foreigner thinking to himself, well, this woman is poor, and she needs the help. And if I help her, then she'll know she can come to me for help, and she'll know that I'm a guy with a big heart, and that will win her over. Well, it very well may be that she's plotting all of this, and it starts small and then gets bigger and bigger, or some other need comes up, and that's another red flag. It's not just um, they could use some money, but a situation comes up that requires money, hospitalization or something is broke, and just even if that were really true, I think more likely than not, the right Filipina, the good Filipina, would not tell you, because she would not want you to think that she is like one of those that you've heard about, that she's scamming you. She'd probably just suck it up and tough it out, because she'd think, if I tell this guy, he's going to think I'm a scammer. She's got integrity, she's got some pride, and she's not going to do that. And Filipinos are proud. Um, there's a lot of wonderful qualities of Filipinos and Filipinas, and the ones that are just going to ask you for money or easily accept it, I would say you've got something to be wary of. Example, my wife, she kind of refused money even after we were married, because she thought, well, I can make do, I'm okay. No, maybe later, not now. I had to argue with her. Hey, you're my wife now, I have to provide for you, you got to take this money. um she's more like, well, I've got enough to eat for the day, I'll be fine. So as we got closer to the immigration and all that thing, having to go to Cebu for the Center for, or the Conference for Filipinos Overseas, and then the tests and all of that, and then Manila, of course, I had to give her money for all that. And I know it sounds like a good way to get off to a good start, but you really shouldn't. There are so many horror stories, so many guys out there, they're telling themselves, why did I give her the money? I even knew better than that, but I gave her the money and it felt so good to help her. And then we're chatting, and I feel like I've got this real strong relationship. I've got what I need. I'm going to go out and meet her. And then disaster, Um, so got to be real cautious about this. You got to be level headed and circumspect, ask around, get advice from other people, because you got blind spots once you start falling for someone. So that's excellent advice, J Dub. Don't do that. Never send money to someone you do not know. Phil's to Phoenix. Hi there. After a few months, I tried sending money to Cindy to get a better internet connection, and I took a bit to convince her to accept the money. Well, and in your case, John, I'm sure she was totally honest. You can't always tell, um, but I can see that. I mean, I don't know if I ever did that with Isa or not. I don't know. I might have, or she just might have said, "Well, I'll have my load in a few days," and then we went back to talking. But early on, we talked all the time, and maybe after we got married, that obviously might have slowed down a little bit. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, what do you do? What do you do? I think in that case, you almost have to allow yourself a little freedom and say, okay, I mean, how's she going to prove to you? I don't know. That would be a toughie. You don't want to feel like you're going to be a cheapskate, or you don't trust her, and she's somebody who can make you a good wife. She needs the load, which is buying internet time to talk to you. And they do run out. I thought, this load, what is this load thing? That's a crazy thing. They don't have month to month, I don't believe, like we do here, at least not for their phones, maybe not for anything. Do you think social media, Facebook, etc., is a danger to a relationship? Filipinas like their Facebook. B Red, James Kelly, PV. They sure do. So does my wife, and she still loves Facebook. I've done a video since you bring that up. Um, Facebook, foreigner, Filipina, friend or foe, and I would recommend not putting any controls or restrictions on her Facebook. Um, early on, she's gonna cling to that Facebook. I mean, she has just gone what to her must seem like a million miles away, um, to get to another country where she knows no one, may not know how to drive, get herself around, know where anything is, or know anybody other than the guy that she's married to. Uh, don't begrudge her Facebook. I can tell you from my own experience. Um, there may have been some times when I felt like, am I getting ignored a little bit here? I might have felt like it. I just told her, we spend a little time here. By the same token, I have to understand that, if I were in her shoes, I'm sure I'd be doing the same thing. And over time, as she gets more invested and integrated into your relationship and your country and working and so on, then she will use her Facebook and her social media more, judiciously, I would think. At least that's the way it is now. In fact, I encourage her, uh, to talk to her nieces and nephews. I like to be there too, and we can talk to them together, um, which helps me kind of integrate myself to her family and get in their good graces. I do love her family. I want to know them more, and I'm getting to know them more. Let me get that out of here. So, Facebook. I mean, how much time can you really spend on Facebook? Once she starts working, that'll take care of that. But you know, that's just one of those things. Don't say, "Hun, 1 hour a day," and that's it. You're going to make her despise you. I think if you start putting restrictions on the social media. John Michael 14:6, newlywed, right, Michael? Late to the party. Well, don't have any balloons here or noisemakers. Forgot the time change here. Yeah, this morning, interestingly, all of a sudden, my computer clock was an hour off, and I looked up and I thought, I'm going to be an hour late for work. What happened here? But for some odd reason, it just changed itself this morning to daylight savings time. So, but yeah, time zone weather looks different now. It's so bright out, and it's 7:07 here in the Midwest. Yeah, Michael, you missed a lot. You can go back and catch up. Been talking about ways that the Philippines, according to many, is dying for sexpats, and is this the same for marriage-minded men? And I've come to the conclusion, based on my source, the information was from tonight that can be verified, in other places, that things are changing. The winds of change are blowing through the Philippines. It's affecting the sexpats, the sex tourism. There's more competition, younger guys, maybe some men with more money coming over from other countries, and well, saturation in some particular locations, making it seem even worse. But I do think, Michael, that I'm going to keep recommending the Philippines to foreigners. That's where I found my wife. I couldn't be happier with her. There is no perfect marriage. There's no perfect husband. There's no perfect wife. You have to learn how to, deal with things that are going to come up, and you're going to have some moments that sting, when you're just not you have a bad day, but making up is a wonderful thing. And having somebody be at your side that, meets your needs and you can meet their needs. There's nothing better in life. And in my opinion, um, everybody's had their own experience, their own bitterness, their own joy. And uh, I'm really happy with my wife, very much so. If sex pets are becoming extinct in Philippines, amen. Well, John 14:6, they're not extinct yet, and I don't know if they ever will be. But right now, they seem to be coming up against some stiff competition, no pun intended, um, that is causing them to kind of wonder if it's working. They can't quite get the seven, eights, and nines like they used to, or you know, they think the women are getting more picky, the Filipinas, and they might be. You know, there might be more younger men competing with the older men, and you know, they might be competing for the same Filipina. Sometimes that works for the younger man. Sometimes it won't work for the younger man. But young and old, I still think there's plenty of good ones out there. Reputation has probably been affected by jaded Filipinas to some degree, but I still think the good, honest man can find somebody in the Philippines. Just have to know what to look for. Um, you know, people have asked me, well, what's the largest age gap, you know, that I would recommend? Um, and I don't want to be legalistic. I don't like legalism, but so if I said 30 years, that's it. Any more is doomed to failure. Anything more is foolish. I can't say that. I personally just feel that throw out a number, ballpark number, 30 years age difference. I wouldn't go personally above that. That's just me. And I think dating or marrying a Filipina younger than 25 probably has a certain greater amount of risk each year that you go under that. I think it's helpful, although again, don't want to be legalistic, but helpful to marry somebody that is college educated. Um, Although I wasn't looking for that, I was just looking for a Christian. That was the number one thing. I figured we'd work out everything as we go, which we've been doing. And if she's working, I think that's a really big sign, because a working Filipina is not going to expect her husband to do everything for her. She's likely to feel like, hey, let me do as much as I can for my family and for us, but I don't want to burden my husband with her family matters. And often the husband will say, hey, I'd like to help. I've helped my wife, and I wasn't, I didn't know what to expect when I married her, but family is so important to a Filipina, and I value what she means to me and what she's done for me. I can't put a price tag on my wife. We have our moments like anybody else, but when it's good, it's good, and everybody's going to have to, deal with those dark days too. But it's all worth it, in my opinion. Michael, the 65-year-old and above, 2,000 millionaire that are on a tiny SSI that come to the Philippines just to use women. Well, yeah, that's a whole another deal. And there are those. I mean, those would be it could be a sex tourist that's just there for a while. Usually, I think that's the younger guys, 20s, 30s, 40s, or the older expat. I don't endorse that. I'm just saying here in this video that they're finding apparently a more difficult time getting those notches in their belt than they used to. Regardless of nationality, emotional health. Okay, emotional health seeks emotional health. If you are a bar hopping man, you're going to attract the same kind of woman. And kind of the other side of the coin, Michael, I stated earlier that the marriage-minded man is likely to find a marriage-minded Filipina, because that's who he's limiting his search for. The criteria he is using would only be found with certain women, and he's not afraid to be picky and say, that's what I'm looking for. I've always felt like if you're looking for something, put it out there. Say it. What have you got to lose? Which is what I did. Um, My wife says I had a really long profile, which I don't think it was that long. But I did explain to her, here's kind of well, I told her this is what I need. Okay. This is what my needs are. I need a wife. Um, I want to fulfill the wife's needs. Talked about the roles of husband and wife. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I want to do. Do you see it this way? You know, what do you think? And whoever said yes and could be convincing, was good enough for me. But I wasn't afraid to say something. I wasn't afraid to say, I've been alone for 30 years. I just said, it's been 30 years and I hadn't had anybody. Couldn't find anybody in my own country. Now, she could have said, oh, big loser here. No, no, she didn't say that. She said, don't worry about it. The past is the past. You know, we both start over with our lives. The past is the past. Don't worry about it. I'll make you forget about those 30 years alone. That's what she said um, she was waxing eloquent at the wedding ceremony. For a quiet woman, she sure kind of dominated that mic for a while. And, she said it, and I think it came straight from her heart. She was going to make me forget about those 30 years. And she has. I don't really dream about being single anymore. I never think about it unless I drive by, like where I used to live, for a long time as a single person, or I hear a song that, really reminds me of that bad time. I mean, it was a time of growth. I can't say it was a wasted time, but it was tough, almost killed me. But she has made me forget about that. B. Rad, do you think at some point in the future feminism will reach the Philippines? It probably already has. It's one of those slow boil type of things. I like that term that my source used, because change happens almost imperceptibly and sometimes behind the scenes. And there probably is feminism. Somebody let me know if they would agree with that. I think there probably is some. I mean, with how easy it is now to get cell phones and the internet, and they learn things now. They can learn about feminism and how wonderful it is made to seem in the West, and some of them probably have been contaminated by that, but a lot of them haven't. I mean, you can always ask a Filipina, do you know about feminism? What is your opinion on feminism? And if they say, oh no, sir, I'm a conservative woman, put a big star by that person. But yeah, it's probably happened to some extent. Yeah, good question. I have thought about that. I was 53. I got married. At what point, since I want people, or at least I want them to think about going to the Philippines to marry, I don't want to say that if it's going to be a dead end. I'm not making money out of this, so I just want people to take the brown pill, don't give up, don't take the black pill, don't commit suicide, you know, don't go MGTOW monk or whatever. And what does it hurt, to give another try and try something that you haven't done before? Um, but if, 50 years, would would there be as much feminism there than now in 50 years? Maybe. And if that's the case, kind of puts more sense of urgency on finding somebody, um, before things, continue to increase until it is too bad. And there probably are some places, some cities or areas that are more feministic than others, perhaps. I don't know. Yeah, never. That's a good prayer. I just don't know. It may take over the whole world. Given enough time, I don't know. Huge difference in culture comparing Philippines and USA. Philippines has faith in their culture. Now, Philippines, they say, is about 80% Catholic. I'm a Protestant, so I said, looking for Protestant. I know I could have said anything and then, had a better chance, but, I was looking for a Protestant, so I put Protestant. And, I had my choice of Protestants, even though most of them aren't. Um, but there's Seventh Day Adventists, there's Catholicism, there is Protestantism, and that was a big thing for me. So I asked some specific questions. In fact, I had my wife's asking, talk to my pastor one morning when it was late over there, and they talked for about, I don't know, 40 minutes, and he gave me his approval since we were going to marry in the Philippines. Wanted him to do the wedding here. My wife wanted to marry there, so he endorsed it. I don't think he wanted to stand in the way when he was actually trying to help me find a wife, and even suggested the Philippines as a possibility. He kind of thought, well, can you look for somebody maybe about 30? I was 53, and I said, but this woman is 26, and I think she could be the one. I was thinking about proposing on day 12, and I gathered my patience and waited till day 18 before proposing to her. Then I ran out and bought a ring for her. Yeah, agreed, Michael, but you never know. Philippines is 95% Christian. Well, they could probably say that about the United States too. Like anything, and this is not being judgmental, it's being discerning. If you're looking for a woman of faith or a Christian woman, you have to know what that means. I mean, don't wait until you're married to find out, you got fooled, or, ask specific questions. What do you really want to know about her faith? I mean, it's a big deal. Just marriage in general, it's a big deal. So don't feel like you're going to offend her by asking questions. Don't feel like you're going to hurt your chances by being open and honest and saying what you want. This is international dating. You're not going to be there to go out to movies and stuff like that. The whole purpose, I think, of internet dating is to get married. So I think you can get married faster in another country than you can in your own. If it's becoming westernized, you're not having success there. Because I think unless they're a scammer, they're there to get married. And they can get married real quick in the Philippines, as I know. But I would always try to ask them more to find out about their Christianity, because what if they're just saying that? You want to be sure. That's just being discerning, not being judgmental. That is a big difference. If you're a Christian, then you're supposed to marry a Christian. Well, then you have to be able to know. You have to be able to state why you believe that. Brave man, Bob. Not many would propose so fast. Actually, you know what? I've heard of a couple that did. That did that. Now, well, in the old days, that in this country, that used to be many years ago. That might happen. Maybe brave isn't the word for it. I didn't think I was brave. I was trying to be aggressive, and I knew what I wanted. And sometimes you can be surprised that there it is. In fact, I told her I just joined 5 days ago, and she wanted me to go steady with her. But she was testing me, I think, to make sure I wasn't like one of those other guys, that can't be trusted. And, I thought, never had anybody really want to, shield themselves from other competitors, so to speak, and give me the first shot. So I said, why not? I'm going to do that. It's hard finding a wife in the Philippines in the sense that you have so many choices. Done several videos on that. So I wasn't brave. I just knew what I wanted. And I trusted God. There was a lot of trust there. I felt if God was going to make it seem, if he was leading me to this, then I wouldn't know what to say if I was going to get scammed. I just couldn't see that happening. And it didn't happen. She knew, she trusted me that I wasn't going to beat her, that she was going to at least give me the benefit of the doubt. Look, you don't know much sometimes until you're really married. Um, then you have to deal with each other, and I knew we would continue to get to know each other after we got married. I wanted to get the foundation built, and then we'll build the rest of it as we go. And that's what we've done. And getting Christian Filipina stuff here. I'm going to move that off before we could get our license. Well, you gotta be in the Philippines for 10 days before you can get married. I didn't have a passport, so the 54 days, it could have been whittled down to 40 or less if I could have, but 54 days, pretty quick. It took 4 weeks for your license. So Michael, you're probably well into the beginning stages of your petition. I would think, yeah, equally yoked. We started our petition. Actually, it's my petition, since I'm the one petitioning her. We started it before we went. I hired an agent. We started filling out paperwork, as if we were married. We had to wait for the license a little bit longer because here in Nebraska, unlike every other state, you need the sealed or the one with the raised seal. It used to be the NSO, National Statistics Office. Now it's called Philippine Statistics Authority, PSA. That held us back, about 8 months from wedding until she got here. So, yeah, faith is important, but, don't take anything for granted. Ask questions, and if my pastor had said, well, Bob, you might be missing something here, I'd say, okay, let's talk about it. What did you see? What did you see that you think I'm missing? But he didn't. He was wise enough to know that the guy has an opportunity, and it's been so few and far between. And if he's willing to, invest himself in that relationship, then, he wasn't going to stand in the way and say, well, Bob. And I've had people, I'm going to do a video on that one of these days. It's in my notes, where churches kind of look down on the guy for saying, I found a wife, or a girlfriend, and she's in the Philippines, and she happens to be 20 or 25 years or whatever years younger than I am. My pastor didn't shrink at that. He just thought, well, 26 a little young, how about 30? But I will say this, a 26-year-old Filipina can be quite mature if she's been working, sacrificing, working long hours and keeping very little for herself. She's, pretty mature, I think. I've noticed that before she got here, and she's the same way here. Yeah. Yeah, this channel is about helping men find a wife. If you're on the fence, I'm not going to tell anybody, hey, you're dumb if you don't look for a foreign wife. You got to be sure in anything. But when you're sure, I think you got to jump in, dive in head first and go for it. At least that's what I did. But again, there's another video topic. What pace do you go at? Different people are going to go at different paces based on their personality, based on their previous life experience. If they've been divorced, they're probably going to be more cautious. And that's very understandable, of course. But international dating works. There's some dangers, of course, with the scamming. But, if you're really perceptive, it would take a very, very skilled scammer to pull the wool over your eyes. But it does happen. There's plenty of stuff out there. I mentioned foreignwifehappylife.com. They've got some good articles on, JD's got what's called Scam School over there. I'd recommend going over there. So if anybody has any other questions about this topic or anything else, give you a minute here to think about that. I appreciate everybody that's here tonight and everybody that watches it later on. Um, feel free to share this. Um, don't know how it's going to be received. We're just talking about something that is factual. Things are changing, and for better or worse, I thought I would do a video on that. And Michael, God bless your new wedding, your new relationship with your wife, and thank you again, everybody, for being here tonight. Been here an hour and a half. Very interesting topic that I've learned an awful lot from, and I can certainly, uh, give credence to it from what I've heard. So, thank you, everybody. You have a great week, and we'll see you, I think, next Monday with another very, very interesting topic that will blow this one away, I think, in some ways. Thanks, B-Rad. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll take all the thumbs up I can get to. I never even mention that because my eyes are usually here. Yeah, thanks, Phyllis to Phoenix. Thanks, John. And Phyllis to Phoenix has a channel. We did a little collaboration a couple of weeks ago on our wife or being away from our wives for the very first time. So check out Phil's to Phoenix channel. And thank you for being here, John. Always good to see you. I guess I consider you an old timer in that we've been with each other's channels maybe from the start. So good to see you here. Good to see everybody here, and good night. Everybody have a good rest of the week.